can still use internet cafes in a number of countries where they simply don't do that. So you just go there, pay your money, and that's where the trace ends. So that's another thing. And then Anonymizer. Oh, there is another question. Yes, please.
This is okay. I almost hate to play devil's advocate, but I think to say that there is no value as long as you have the open wireless networks is not quite true. Because I do know, at least, if I see a pattern of abuse coming from a specific wireless network, if I'm a police agency, I know that the person is within an X house radius, and so there is still some value. If I see access in an internet cafe every day at 4 p.m., that still gives me value. So I think that to say that there is no value is not quite accurate.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I was thinking about the terrorist, you know, who's in a town. He doesn't always regularly use the same. I mean, I'm talking about a professional terrorist. You know, he won't use the same network all the time. He would just move around, and if there are hundreds, he's choosing them. So it normally leads back, and this is why if I'm talking to people who say, well, I was doing some hacking activities, and I was threatened by the fact that the police could jump into my house, and I'm always mentioning, and that's not for you now, it's just a general, whereas set up a wireless network, because then you can simply say, sorry, it could have been everybody. It might have been my line, but actually I don't know who it was. So that's an option, and therefore a wireless network is something police is really afraid of. You know, if they come in and you just drop, you see the Wi-Fi saying that's it. That normally stops the interest because it's making it much more difficult. Okay, but then the next one is Anonymizer. I'm using this JEP very intensively, and I'm asking myself, I mean, it's not set up in a way that data retention, that they could stop the threat of data retention yet, but maybe they can in the future if they set up the system a different way, so a number of countries are involved that do not have any data retention outside Europe, especially in the eastern part of Europe, think of Russia or something else, then this could be really a system that works perfectly and stops any attempts of data retention in Europe. And the last one is encryption. That's something you could make use of as well, and I will make use of, which could at least stop some kind of data retention, especially when it comes to email, because email communication, they want to identify the people who are communicating, so they need the email addresses. I mean, it doesn't really help them to identify the people, only the addresses, but they need them, and therefore they have to step down one layer. And if there is some kind of encryption used that stops them from any access to these layers, that's basically your job, then that would help as well. So these are all things that easily can be set up, and therefore experts might say, well, why do we have data retention? That doesn't help. You know, it's so easy to circumvent it. Maybe not easy enough now, but these are really options. So what I would like to do with you right now is let's have a look into the brain of those people who are drafting laws, what they're thinking right now. And actually, they don't think that much, but they have these activity in their brain. I wouldn't call it thinking, but you know, it's at least there's something going on, and it's a strange output, and they're touching the same aspects. They're already drafting something in this area. And let's start with the open wireless LAN. There is a missing awareness, definitely. I mean, people are buying it, setting up, they don't care. They don't care that somebody could hack in. That is not even hacking, it's just by driving past the street, my system is doing it automatically. And there is a great potential for misuse. Hiding identity, committing crimes, all this summarized. So there's a great potential. So I mean, this is obviously that something must be done from the point of the legislation, so what are they going to do? My suggestion is that they're going to extend the duty of those people who are running these access points. I mean, you have to register. You already have to do it right now. If you're based in Germany, you might not know that. If you're using a closed network only for your own purpose use, for your own private use, or your family, that's fine. But if you have an open network and many people are connecting from the neighborhood as well, you have to register it. You do not need a permission for that, but at least you have to say, hey, I'm running one of them. This could be turned in a different way. It means like you have to register, and they're forcing you, as soon as you're setting this up, to participate in the data retention. That will be the next step. Or even to set up a certain system. That means not only a cheap wireless LAN system, but a system that can gather or collect much more information. So that would be an option, or that is something we have to think about, we have to be aware about. Right now we have a wonderful situation. Wireless networks or open wireless networks all around. Well, that could change in the future. There is another question. Can we have a microphone, please?
I think your suggestion is not of any use because you just break into the wireless network, even if it is encrypted, and then you use it. And so the data retention is useless.
Oh, right. Okay, you're absolutely
right.
You
won't find out who
but
used it.
You know, it's so easy now. I mean, if you... I was talking to one of you guys, and I asked him, well, is my encryption at home sufficient? And he said, you know, if I'm driving through a street and there are about 20 networks, 10 are open, some of them are not well protected, the others are not well protected, and one is well protected. Well, I'm going to choose one of the open networks. I won't really use 5 or 10 minutes to break into your system. It's much easier to take another one. So as long as there are no sensitive information stored that I really want, I won't care. So as long as we have open networks, there is no need to break into any other network. But as soon as we have a regulation on this one, you will simply break in. I know that you will do that. That's not the point. But we have to think about this, especially if you're running an open network. If you say, I want other people to participate, I would like to stop tracing back the route and would like to participate in this process by setting up open networks and simply say, I'm not responsible for what's happening when information are passing my lines, there might be difficulties coming up. Internet ID, that's the example from Italy. You have to show your valid ID. That could be an option. You say, if you use an internet service, anything that has to do with communication that could be used by terrorists as well, means everything, then you have to show your ID. This is something we have to at least think about. So that would as well change the idea of an open society, democracy in the internet. I mean, people who don't have the money to buy an expensive computer, who may not be, and this is something that's happening in Eastern Europe on a large scale. People are using these internet cafes not only because it's fun, but especially because they don't have access to the internet. So if we limit this, and if we do not give people the possibility to communicate anonymously, that would be a great danger to what we do feel right now, a democratic process of the internet. So this could be a threat as well. And I would just like to trigger it and to draw your attention to the fact that this could be the next problem. There is another question, please.
Do I understand it right that all these data retention should be used to trace terrorists?
Well, let's say
I'm not finished.
Sorry.
And if it is the case, shouldn't we shouldn't our effort lie in a new definition of the word terrorism?
Okay, so if you would like a law to pass Parliament without trouble, that's difficult. That's really difficult. Many interest groups. You simply say against terrorism. You say law against terrorism or Anti-Terrorism Act, because that's always the easiest way. Fighting against terrorism, everybody is on your side, and nobody will stand up and say no, no. So definitely, the idea was to trace back routes, because it's obviously that terrorists are using the internet. I mean, they would be stupid if they are located all around the world if they wouldn't use the internet. It seems that they are pretty much skilled, that they, I don't know on what level, but at least they know how to hide their identity, how to communicate. But the question is only, is that really the reason why the policeman in a mid-sized town is already sitting there like that? Okay, we're going to get you. We're going to get you guys. It's not the terrorists they're aiming for. There's a much broader application they're planning. So they think, I don't know if it is hacker they think of, about child pornography and a number of other scenarios where we will see that it's not a fast development, but it might take 5 years. But what is 5 years in times of internet? That's very short. But we see that development, that is, there is a concentration of these efforts to implement investigation instruments, and it's not the clever ones. There are a number of clever investigation instruments I can think of. For example, quick freeze procedure. I would really appreciate very much if they would develop something like this, because I think if somebody is committing a crime, they have to be able to prosecute them. That's no question. But storage of all people around the world, or let's say in Europe, just because there are a number of criminals, no, that can't be the solution. There is another question.
I just wanted to say there is a possibility to stop those open networks, perhaps by a policy like with homepages. Now you are responsible for the content of homepages which you link to. Like, okay, if you set up your network, you are responsible if any terrorist uses it. Something like that would make this a little, would discourage people from having those networks.
I have to say I'm very much into that responsible topic. I thank you very much for that remark. But it's a difference between content, responsibility for content, and responsibility for access. And right now, it's a question I will raise at the end, whether this will remain. Right now, we say an access provider is not liable for, not responsible for what is happening over his lines, what there is going. So an access provider can simply sit back and say, no, I'm not responsible at all. And somebody who is offering, who's working as a host provider, he's responsible if he has knowledge. And somebody who's really putting on content, he's fully responsible. I know that there will be complaints now because we see some court rulings that are going in a different direction, but this is right now what we do have. But there is one difficulty, and the difficulty is that the reason why the access provider should not be responsible is because at the time where the law was drafted, it was absolutely clear, all experts said there is a control is not possible for him. But right now it seems the control is possible. The Chinese do it, and they're very successful in that. And some of the providers I was talking to, they said, of course we could do that. Oh, that's no problem. If a keyword? No problem. We could really filter keywords. But this leads to, I always mention, please don't say it loud. I mean, silence is okay, but don't stand up and say it's possible, because then we will have another discussion about responsibility. And if we start the discussion about responsibility again, that's really difficult. You're in trouble. And the access providers are in trouble right now. It's the first step, because as soon as they have the data retention, as soon as they have the information, they have the potential to identify criminals. And if the police can simply say, now you have to get through this information, you have the duty to get through them, to identify criminals, and so on. So I'm not very pleased about the situation, but the hyperlink controversy, this is a very controversially discussed issue. And I think open networks are not comparable, because right now, give me a ring if something else is happening around Europe, but just ringing the police saying, I'm an access provider, I'm not responsible, normally helps. There's another question.
Yeah, maybe more a remark in addition to what the lady said. She said about the responsibility. If that is going to be the society, I think we also should forbid McDonald's, because they are feeding terrorists with hamburgers.
No. No. You were the one who had this this lecture about data retention before, yes? I liked it very much. I liked it very much, and I'm absolutely in your line. But I think if we see it from a legal point of view, and I'm a lawyer, so I'm always trying to see it from the legal point of view, because that's the only way I can fight. I can fight with regard to law, but not with regard to technique. So we really, it's very important for me to keep out that the access provider. I wouldn't even compare it to McDonald's, because there are some claims against McDonald's in the United States, and they're made responsible for fat people. So there is a responsibility. So I would like the access provider to keep out of that and say they're not responsible at all, because they are untouchable. They're so important for our society, for the access to the internet, for the information source. So there is no responsibility. I'm just stepping forward. Yeah, anonymity. Question is, okay, there is one more question. Let me just...
One more question.
Okay. Yes, please.
I have a problem with the interest of the information, because I think with the open wireless networks, there could be a kind of law that says all hardware producers have to install or only have to only sell access points with encryption. Like that would be the easiest way in my eyes. But there seems to be an interest also to say, also to sell access points